Huge breaking news that I am very, very glad to report to you. The United States will start the process to open an embassy in Cuba and begin diplomatic relations with Cuba. Alan Gross, a 65-year-old American contractor, had been held for 5 years in Cuba, has now been released as of this morning, and has made it to U.S. soil, according to ABC News. In exchange, the U.S. agreed to release 3 Cubans that had been jailed for espionage, according to the Associated Press. And subsequently, the Associated Press also reported that the U.S. is going to normalize full diplomatic relations with Cuba, planning to open an embassy in Havana. The details, of course, still to be hashed out. This is the end, Lewis, potentially the end of effectively a half-century-long Cold War standoff with Cuba. President Obama already being called a communist for doing this. The reality is this should have happened far sooner. It shouldn't even have been on Obama's plate to do this because it should have happened so long ago.
Yeah, incredible that it has taken this long. I see no downside to this, although I'm sure plenty of politicians in Congress do.
And including Cuban-American Senator Marco Rubio, a Republican who says this is a bad idea, this is not going to be good for anybody, this will not further democracy in Cuba at all.
I think it can only help democracy in Cuba, and I don't see this as a problem. This is a huge positive.
Not to mention that if the standard is the U.S. does not do any business with what we don't consider democratic countries, let's look at Saudi Arabia for a second, a total theocracy that is beheading people every single month. Well, that's a different situation. We have to figure out exactly how to wordsmith it, but that has nothing to do with this. The U.S. is the only country that has a trade embargo with Cuba. 4 decades of this have achieved very little. They have not forced the end of the Castro regime. They have not forced democracy. And the embargo is causing worse living conditions in Cuba. It's also bad for American business. The fiscally conservative thing is stop putting money into enforcing the embargo with Cuba. That's number one. And number two, open up Cuba so that American businesses can do business there. This is the fiscally conservative thing to do. Living in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s of the Cold War, Russian espionage mentality is not helping anybody, and it laughably makes the U.S. look like an incredible hypocrite.
It makes us look stubborn, and it makes us look very foolish. So yeah, we're moving in the right direction now, at least.
And Cuba poses absolutely no threat to the United States whatsoever. Let's take a break. Twitter.com/David Pakman Show. Follow us on Twitter. What a program we have for you today.